All right, we're live now. Hey guys, my name's Tori Townley. I'm here for the Serve Brew. This is something that we do about once a week leading up to Serve Day and hopefully beyond, which Serve Day is July 16th. If you haven't signed up yet, you can go to serveday16.com. It's just going to be a big day where we have about 230 churches right now who have signed up and are continuing to sign up across the world to say we're going to serve our cities together on this one day. But it's not just about a one-day event, it's about every day. But this is just one thing we can do to show that we're unified and sharing kindness and hope across the world. So serveday16.com, there's ideas, resources, there's a share site there, all kinds of stuff, so be sure to check it out. But today is fun because we have three amazing guests on our brew. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce them and just give them a chance to share their hearts and their experience. They're incredible men. So first up is Pastor Derek Zwerneman. He is from Celebration Church in Austin, Texas with Pastor Joe and Lori Champion. He's an awesome guy. He's becoming a great friend to me and my family. And lots of amazing wisdom and ideas from him, very creative. Last year was really cool. He actually put together a Serve roundtable for a bunch of outreach leaders across the country, and we got together and just brainstormed, and it was really an honor. So say hello, Derek.
Hello, I brought my cup today.
What is on your cup?
This is my kids in 2012 on the swim team, so I always make it about the kids.
That is awesome. I have mine too. It's Sharpied, so it's kind of like skipping out, but it says Serve Brew 2016, and then I have a little rose that I drew, so nothing fancy. I like the kids. You win.
Filling with water because it is 3 p.m.
water. Oh man, come on. At least it's water. Okay, that's fine. Nothing else. Okay, and then next up I wanted to introduce Dr. Joe Carson. He's from the Life Church Memphis Dream Center. He's the director there. And we just love you guys, you and Miss Kelly. Y'all are truly like my personal heroes. I know I say that all the time. But Miss Kelly was just in the background just being awesome. And what's cool is Derek actually with the roundtable that you hosted, I got to meet Dr. Joe and Miss Kelly through that, and since then a relationship's been formed. You guys have come to the Birmingham Dream Center to visit us, and we're working on a visit back to Memphis, and then just through the Dream Center network, getting to connect with you guys has been awesome. So, hey, Dr. Joe.
Hey, guys. How are y'all?
Are you drinking anything today?
I am. I've got a little Arizona sweet.
Ooh, fancy. Okay.
We are hosting our youth conference this week, and so we've got 1,000 teenagers here. And so part of that week is developing an outreach for all of those teenagers. So we will go to 20 different sites all over the city this week. So I need all the caffeine I can get, I think.
Oh my gosh. That's the Axis conference?
Yes, Axis Nation.
Wow, that's exciting. I can't wait to hear stories from how that goes. And wow, thank you for taking time to be here during that. That's crazy. Cool. And then next up is Pastor Chuck Colegrove of Free Church in Oak Park, Illinois. I always say Chicago. I guess it's close and landmark. Everybody knows I say Chicago. But what's cool is Dr. Joe's son, Clay, actually works at your church. He's the youth pastor, right?
Correct.
Yeah? Okay, cool. So that's like, I love connecting dots. It's so cool how God just weaves our stories together like that. But you guys are one of the coolest churches around. I got to visit there a couple years ago with my family, and just like the coolest vibe. Y'all are meeting in a theater. Are y'all still in a theater? Y'all have a building?
We are not. We actually moved into school.
Oh, cool.
So
that's exciting. How's that going?
It's going great. It's allowed us to go 2 services and just really increase our space for kids ministry. So we're really excited about being there.
That is so cool. And I love the patriotic look you got going on today.
Yeah. God bless them.
I want to give a shout out to you, Pastor Chuck. This is funny in light of the Serve Brew. One of your best Good Samaritan acts was back in November, October. I was stranded at the airport at midnight, and Pastor Chuck and Mr. Shauna came to my rescue. I was like, Dad, help! Who's an ARC pastor in the area that can come get me? He's like, all right, Chuck's on his way. I call y'all my Uber family.
Anytime.
It was the best 4 hours of sleep in my life. So. cool. All right. Well, and really, I've said it before, but this is just, we want to spark inspiration in people and share wisdom, and you guys are three of the strongest voices we could think of to have on this call. So I'm going to just kind of take turns and give you guys a chance to share your heart, a little snapshot about what you do as far as serving in your city goes, and just, you know, just gush what you want the world to know about you and your church. So let's start with Pastor Chuck. We'd love to hear from you first.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Tori, for letting me be a part, and Pastor Derek, Pastor Joe, so great to be with you guys. I have an echo. Is it just me, or is it everybody? I just want to make sure before I get rolling.
No, you're good to me.
Okay. Well, listen, what an honor to be here today and to share. And our church, Free Church here in Oak Park, which is only about 6.5 miles from downtown Chicago, we're the first suburb west, and really our heart has been from the beginning just kind of extending the love of Christ through any random act of kindness. And one of the phrases we like to use is whatever we're doing, we do it no strings attached and all for love. And so we really we've done quite a few things. Some things are just one-hit wonders, and we learn something from it and we move on. And one of our favorite ones is we do free laundry, one of our local laundromats, and just man, it's been incredible to be connected to that community and serve, and really just to see the difference a quarter can make in somebody's life. It just seems so insignificant to us, but the reality is in somebody's life it makes a huge difference. And so we're really just honored to be a part of this call, and look forward to hear from Dr. Joe and from Pastor Derek, and really kind of gleaning from some of the great things they're doing as well. But just anything we can add, any questions we can answer, we want to do that. And I think the biggest thing about serving in the community is you just have to embrace the fact that your community is a community God's called you in to do something special, and it doesn't have to be big to be impacting. And so we just have kind of taken whatever we could that we felt would really make a difference in somebody's life, and then we try to serve people not just based on their socioeconomic need. We really love just to serve people right where they're at through our community. So we just kind of that's our hope, is just to make a difference to everyone in the community. So looking forward to hear what everybody else has to say today and answering some questions if I can.
That's tight. I love it. I was watching the video you guys have on your website today, just talking about people's stories and how they're woven together, and I was like, I got goosebumps watching that video today. I was like, wow. But I love that it says it's a love free for the taking, a love for all, and all for love. It's like, man, that's what you guys do. And it's cool that you said y'all have like a diverse way of doing outreach. It's not just the poor and poverty, but it's like whoever, wherever. I love that. So we'll get back to that more. I want to break that down. But let's jump over and let's go to Dr. Joe. Wait, actually, let's go to Derek first. We'll go in order from left to right on my screen, if that makes sense. Derek, can you tell us a little bit about just, I know you've got kind of a cool way that you do things being bivocational. You can talk about that and just how that feeds into the work that you do and that connection, and right. Then just gush, go for it.
Oh man, I could talk all day, but you know, God's really taken me from one place to another, literally. When my wife and I, April, started attending Celebration Church about 12 years ago, and we're probably about 400 or 500 people. And now the church, of course, we see 4,000 to 6,000 on the weekend at our main campus, and we've got a campus in Mozambique and another campus here in Austin, and we're building a building. So Pastor Joe and Lori really have a vision, and it started whenever they moved to this area, and it's amazing to see what is happening because of that vision and how they've stood firm on what they're doing and what God's called them to. And I just feel totally honored to be just a small part of that. So my personal story, I came in to the church, served a little bit here and there. I was super busy. I ran a business, and I worked for the Austin Fire Department at the same time, and I was just one of those dads that just ran everywhere, tried to make the most money that I could, and we did pretty good, but I had an injury and ended up having to lay in bed for about a month with a broken talus bone, which is a bone in your ankle. And I held our what is now 8 years old baby in my arms and said, oh my gosh, what have I been doing? You know, I realized that I hadn't held my other two children this way. And God just began to speak to my heart. So once I started to heal a little bit, I realized that I needed to be doing more, and my heart was to serve people. And I just started plugging into anything that I could. And many of y'all know that when you start in the church and you just get going and people start finding out that you're going to go get it, they're going to pull you in. So I just went to get it. And I said, God, use me any way you can, and let's do this. So when that happened, I was asked to be on staff. They didn't seem to care that I worked for the fire department, but I came on staff as the guest services director. We call it our dream team now on weekend services. But are you hearing me okay, Tori? Okay, great. I see Dr. Joe on my screen. So, but
well, that's a great picture, Derek.
It is. But anyway, just through those steps, we had my wife and I were praying about how do we reach our neighborhood that we just moved into. We moved into an older neighborhood over by our kids' schools, and we, unfortunately, there was a terrible flood, and about 30 houses went underwater, and through that event, we just started serving people, and I felt like I was called to help lead this thing and to help, start pulling furniture out and helping people any way that we could. By the end of that first week, we had about 150 red shirts out there, and it was it was the biggest outreach that we'd ever done at Celebration Church. And our pastors came out, and they're like, wow, what happened? Who did this? And I just happened to be the guy standing there. But it was really an honor, because on the Saturday that the police chief called all of basically the community together for a big serve day, he asked me to get there a little bit early. And when I got there, he introduced the city waterworks and the fire department and the police department and said thanks to all of them. But then he got to the end and he said, but I got to tell you, we couldn't have done it without this man in Celebration Church, and he's your neighbor. And then he asked me to take the microphone and lead the people out. And so we sent 10 red shirts at a time with 10 of my neighbors, and I was able to pray over the neighborhood, and that was my start to outreach. And we can get into more in a little bit, but that really kicked us off, and we just started serving like crazy.
That is amazing. What a hero. That's so cool how God works stuff like that, and just gives you that influence in your city just by being willing.
Yeah.
Hero. Big time. That's awesome. Okay, Dr. Joe, let's go over to you. You are, like I said, a hero among heroes, but one of my favorite things is you and Miss Kelly's story and how that started with, she always talks about one of your sons. And was that Clay that she talks about, or was it? It was. Okay, so I'll let you tell it, but it's so cool how you guys got started. And then I just want to hear a little bit about what's going on in Memphis. So share.
All right. Well, I guess the way we got started, I was a dentist for about 25 years, and so had a good practice, and we were kind of doing the suburban life and living the American Christian dream, and where we were going to church on the weekends and serving, but playing golf and living the country club life, and really not even recognizing that there were people around us that were hurting. And so our son decided to take a year off of school. He was at Baylor University and decided to take a year off of school and do a program called Mission Year. And he landed in Chicago. He didn't know where he was going to go, but he landed in Chicago on the south side of town in Inglewood. So I know Pastor Chuck knows this story, but he, as he experienced the year living in a neighborhood of poverty, living as his neighbors lived, we all learned. We all began to go along with him on that journey. And so as he was growing and learning, we were growing and learning, and God was beginning to capture our hearts. And about that time, my wife met a homeless man on the street and took the rest of us down to meet him the next weekend, and we developed a relationship and started having him just be a part of our family with at the holidays. And And on the weekend, sometimes he would just come out and spend the weekend with us. And we, from that, began developing more relationships with men who don't have a home. And so this was all going on about the same time. And so Kelly and I our church went through a fast, a 21-day fast, and we decided to just ask God, what do you want from us? We're feeling the stirring, but we don't know what to do with it. And by the end of that fast, we knew that we were supposed to sell the dental practice, but had no idea what we were supposed to do after that. The only thing I swore I'd never do was work for a church. And so, but you never know. You don't ever tell God what you don't want to do, because I think he has a sense of humor. And so anyway, it wasn't long. It just took a few months, and we had sold the practice. And invited a couple of our pastors over, let their kids jump in the pool, and so they said, so what's new with you guys? And so we decided to share. We had not even shared with our pastors. We had only been at church there for about a year, and so we just really didn't have a real deep relationship with them yet, and this was kind of one of those get-to-know-you dinners. And so we began to share what God had been doing in our lives over the last year and in our hearts. And he said, so what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. And he said, well, I'm going to go tell Pastor John. And so Pastor John invited us in. Pastor John and Leslie are just an amazing couple, and they've had a big vision for our city. And our city finds itself often on the top of the wrong lists, places that you don't want to be. And yet we believe that we're strategically placed here, that God has positioned us here. And so they set that vision in front of us. And Pastor John said, well, I think I know what you're supposed to be doing. We've been praying for about 18 months at staff meetings that God would raise up a couple in our church with a heart for the poor. And we believe you're it. And so I said, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. All I knew is that I didn't want to work for a church. And I didn't tell him that, but I told Kelly that. And but anyway, he said, now we can't pay you, and you don't have a budget. And I said, well, what would you like for me to do? And he said, start somewhere. And so literally we took my car and sold it and bought a pickup truck and started picking up Panera Danishes at the end of the night. And the next morning we'd have them in Ziploc bags and took them down on the street and just began meeting guys who don't have a home and just kind of loving them right where they were. And out of that, we've just been able to see that ministry expand and grow, and now we're doing lots of different things. But it's really been a neat journey. And one of the neat things is that I know you've already had Kelly on a coffee one time before, but Kelly said something a couple of years ago that has always stuck with me. She said, "You're never more full than when you've emptied yourself for someone else." And I've really begun to learn that lesson, and the more we pour out, the more filled up we become, and God's just been so gracious. And again, our pastors have been so good. And again, I sit here and look at these guys. Derek and April have been here and spent some time with us, and we've had a chance to go to Austin and spend time with them. And I'm always in awe of how he pulls off these huge events, and he seems to do it without breaking a sweat, and I sweat every time we try to do something small. And then, of course, Pastor Chuck, the way he just loves and leads people, and it's just an incredible opportunity for us to know that our son and our daughter-in-law are under his care and are literally being raised up to be incredible leaders and under his leadership. So it's an honor to be here and just be connected with these guys. So.
Wow. Heart of gold, man. I'm like jotting down notes already. I've got old quotes right here that I was going to reference from Dr. Joe, but now I've got like a new page of them, so thank you for that. Okay, I want to hop back to Pastor Chuck again. I know you said that you guys have had like just some rounds of trying different ideas. Sometimes they flop, sometimes they work. The laundromat one has worked really well, and that's one, like when you say outreach at Free Church, laundromat is like what goes in my head, because y'all have like awesome pictures and little cards that go with it. So if you can just kind of break down, like, how do you guys, like, is there a serve team that's kind of like leading it? How is it structured for you? And then how do you go about just brainstorming what works, what doesn't, what makes you say yes, let's do it again, and doesn't? So fly.
Sure. Thanks, Tori. Yeah, we started The laundromat was really the first of a series of events before we launched. So we launched Free Church in September 2012, and in the month of June, so it was about 13 weeks in front of launching the church that we did. We decided to go like 13 straight weeks of doing something in our community, and the laundromat was definitely the one that had the biggest impact. And so what we do is we do have a team that leads it. We have incredible leaders. In fact, Pastor Clay, our youth pastor, and everything else pastor, he does a little bit of everything. It's his wife Katrina leads that team, and so we assess different needs in the area and kind of talk through, like, okay, one pretty cool event we had an idea to do over the Christmas holiday was pack up massive baskets full of treats and food and all kinds of snacks and deliver them to the hospitals, into the emergency room areas and it was for the nurses, and pretty cool thing that we did. It just seemed so simple again, and in about the 7 or 8 hospitals in our area that we dropped these baskets off and did different floors, everyone was just completely blown away. And what we found is that everybody, like, it's one of those things where a lot of times in outreach we look for the down and out, and we see the win, and we know what we're going to do for them, but there's a group of people that serve in and day out. They serve every holiday. They serve crazy hours. They're away from their family, and sometimes they're seemingly overlooked. And so we just wanted them to know they are not overlooked, and they are valuable, and they're important to us and to our community. And so had over and over again people say, like, man, no one's ever done this before. And so those are the kinds of, like, when we hear phrases like that, those are the things that we say, okay, we'll do this again next year, and we'll find a way to add to what we did. And so that's when we find something that kind of hits the hearts of people, we definitely add it to the list and then find ways to do it better the next time. We've done stuff here. We live in a village that's primarily urban suburban. It's a lot of it's a bedroom community, but it is in we're the last stop on the L. We're the last stop on a couple of the trains that go into the city, and so a lot of people work downtown, and so parking here is terrible. You got to pay for parking everywhere all the time. And so one of those ideas, we were like, hey, what if we just paid for parking for a couple hours for people and just literally, like, stand at the parking meters and punch quarters in there. And again, something so little but has such a big win. And so we've done that a few times, and it's usually, obviously, people who don't feel like they have, like, they would never say, well, I needed somebody to pay for my $1.25 parking, or I would have never been. Nobody ever says that. But what they do say is, man, just thanks for looking out for me. Thanks for taking, man, it's so kind. It's so generous. And generosity is not tied to an amount. It's tied to the heart.
Wow.
And so I just believe that, you don't have to look for things that really cost you a lot of money, but you can do something generous that makes a huge difference in people's lives, and it be something that's very practical and very fulfilling for your team to be a part of.
Wow.
Man, that's incredible. I love how you said just keep it simple. The generosity, like you said, is not tied to the amount but the heart. And I think sometimes we're like, what is the most extravagant display of love we can do, especially for Serve Day? Like, we're all like, let's go all out, let's do something radical. And sometimes the most radical thing is just sitting back and listening to the ones who maybe don't have a voice, or how can I weave thoughtfulness into someone's day. It's that easy to show extravagant love. Like, God's the extravagant part, we're just the humble action to it. So I love that perspective, and love what you guys are doing. So, okay, one more question for you,
Yep.
Pastor Chuck. What's an idea that y'all have tried that's flopped, like that just was awful?
Do I have to?
You can think about. There's so many, huh?
Well, I want to just say, first of all, on that idea of doing something of extravagant love. that the fact is, like, when people are in an environment of extravagant love, something simple will be life changing to them. And so I think that's, like, we're in a church world, so when we think of extravagant love, the first thing we think of is Christ died for my sins. His love was so extravagant, it went all the way to the cross. Well, so in an environment where people don't know that, they don't have a framework to identify what extravagant is, and so to them, extravagant can be very simple from the beginning. And so I love that. And then something that we've done that hasn't worked. We did one of the events we did leading up to launch, and we've tried to change it here and there, but we actually did coffee by one of the train stops, and in some ways it was great. In other ways, it was just kind of like people were afraid to drink the coffee. They were like, "What have you put in it?" Like it all is labeled Starbucks. It was like we weren't trying to. It really wasn't even about telling people about the church. It was just like, here we had our shirts on, but hey, just a free cup of coffee. And it was just bizarre, like people in that environment, like just how skeptical everybody was. So that's one that didn't work. And we've done, that was probably the biggest flop, I would say. And then we did one, I want to just say, that really did work well, and we just did it at Easter. And instead of us doing, I know a lot of people do like massive outreaches for Easter egg hunts, and it's like, they drop Easter eggs from a helicopter, and it's phenomenal. We have a park district that does a large event. They plan for it, they prepare, they give away tickets, so they put hours when it starts for different age groups, and so they do a really good job, and we just have kind of tied in with them. And this year we served donuts and coffee there, and instead of us having to do our own outreach of providing, all we had to do was show up with, I think we showed up with like 2,000 donuts, and we showed up with I can't even tell you how many hundreds of gallons of coffee. And it was something that hit our community with what they were already doing, but it really, it was a win for us, because it was like we were high-fiving our community in our parks district, and then the families just got the benefit from it. So, so the one that didn't work was just coffee at the train stop. The one that, the partnering with our community has been a huge win for us every time.
That's so cool. I love how, like, sometimes you did coffee at both places, and sometimes the exact same thing works in two different spots, or one doesn't, one does. Mm-hmm. I have that happen all the time. But what I love that is kind of like being proven is how important relationships are, especially in outreach, because I can see like Chris, the ER workers, but I've talked to some churches in different areas that are like, that's the most absurd idea ever. We'd get kicked out and we'd get hated. So it's like different demographics, different things work, and like I have no idea how to answer what's going to work in your city. So that's where things like this are so cool and helpful, just to hear different ideas. And you guys feel free to like ask each other questions and talk, because I don't want to take up all the time, but I'm just going to kind of keep jabbering, and y'all jump in and flag me if you have anything you want to add in. But Pastor Derek, I want to jump to you. You guys, like, I know big events are really awesome, something that you're great at, and I know from being there, we got to go to one of the city meetings where a bunch of people were talking about how to work on the neighborhood, and y'all are great with partnerships. And I would really like for you to talk about two things, and you can add on whatever you want to. But one is I think it's the Buddy Day for special needs that y'all do, and then the single moms oil change that y'all did, which was so incredible. I think that's a great one for churches to try out if you're looking to get people involved in a bunch of like men, women, youth. There's a lot of opportunities to serve in something like a free oil change for single moms and widows. So just break that down a little, if you will.
Absolutely. So we break it down, as I've progressed as a lead in outreach here. It's been real interesting, because at first we were just handing out water bottles on the side of the road and doing everything that we could. We came up with this big thing called Rake the City, random acts of kindness. And when you you first get rolling, it's like you just find anything to do, and then it's all about structure and how do we make this so much better, and how do we, get the whole church involved instead of just this select group, and that is a very important part of it. So we've kind of boiled things down, and we're big on small groups, and so what we do in order to cast a big net, we do 3 big things a year, and now it looks like 4 with Serve Day. So, but we do our single moms military wives oil change, and that's typically in March. And I'll come back to that. In August, we do our kids' school bags. So we'll do backpacks full of school supplies, and then we work with our local housing authorities, and we work with the Boys and Girls Club and a couple of schools in particular to have a big distribution day where we'll go and have fun kids games, and we'll share the gospel with them, and it's an awesome time for the whole church to get involved. And then finally in November, we do a big Thanksgiving turkey meal drive. So we'll do a sponsor a bag, assemble a bag, and deliver a bag. And so we have over 1,000 of our members will go out and actually knock on a door that has already been identified as someone who is willing to accept and they need a meal for Thanksgiving, and they get to knock on the door and hand it to them and pray with them if that opportunity presents itself. But those are the 3 big things that I would say are church-wide, and so they have become important because what they do is they stir up the water and kind of flesh out who's going to be interested in outreach, because the other thing that we do is we do Serve Saturday every 4th Saturday of the month, and so we have different projects going on. We work with the local housing authorities to do, we call them adopt-a-blocks now, where we go in and just meet the needs, do kids programs, and have a lot of fun while we're building relationships. So to go back to your question, the Single Moms Military Wives Oil Change has been very impactful, and it's talked about throughout the city. And this last year, I just pulled the numbers, we had 417 Dream Team come out and serve that day, and we did 315 oil changes. So if you can imagine, the whole campus turns into a Jiffy Lube with a massage, eye waxing, a bistro for the ladies, and it's amazing. So the kids come, we have kids games and things like that. But it is an interesting day, and I cannot take any credit for it at all. Before I was here, Pastor Mel Stauber, which some of you may have met him. He's our pastor in Mozambique, in Shai. And Pastor Mel came up with this thought with Pastor Joe and Lori and said, hey, let's try to do a couple of oil changes. And so I kind of took it over after the 3rd year, and this was, I believe, our 9th year of doing the Single Moms Military Wives oil change. But it's really grown, and what's really neat about this initiative is that it brings different groups of people to the table to serve. So for instance, we have a group of guys now that all year they plan this app and figure out how to do scanners and barcodes and all this stuff to make the process super easy. So they get together, they're talking about it, they're getting other people involved of trying to create the best possible scenario so that we can make the day as smooth as possible. We've got different ladies groups that get together and talk about how they're going to be doing nails, or how what massage therapy companies we're going to be, talking with and inviting to come join us for that big day of serving. And so the process is pretty awesome. The ladies are able to sign up online, and I tell you, I watch those numbers all day long, every day, and they increase really fast. So we have to figure out the process each year of when we're going to release the information, because we just get inundated with the people that are going to be coming. So but it's an awesome opportunity. The ministry happens in the ladies, we call it the ladies pamper station. So we open up one of our auditoriums, and there's hundreds of ladies in there, and if you can imagine, they're just rubbing hands, they're doing nails, they're talking, and there's tears flowing and prayer happening. So it's a great opportunity for the ladies ministry just to get in there and start ministering to needs. and it's unexpected for the ladies that are coming. They're thinking that they're coming for to get their oil changed, and they walk in and there's Michael Bublé is playing on the speakers, and the atmosphere is set so that they just feel comfortable. This year we did what do we call those things? We did pancakes, eggs, all kinds of stuff in the bistro. So we just have, it's evolved into this big event, the other, what, Tori, you were asking about another ministry? Was it the special needs?
It was. I want to say something real quick, though. I love how it's such a big event, and I think a lot of times maybe when we're not at that level to do something like giant, it's overwhelming. Like Dr. Joe's like, oh my gosh, an event, I don't like those. I don't either, but something that's helped me, especially being here at Church of the Highlands, is especially this year, we're talking about our big event projects for Serve Day. Our goal is to break it down into smaller pieces, so it's all small groups represented, and so they get a chance to own each portion. So it's like all the weight of it isn't on you, Derek, or your team. It's, okay, ladies, you all play in the pamper zone and do it. I'm sure that's part of how it works for you guys. So the goal is pointing people to people when they're serving, not people to sign up for the project. So I think that's super, super cool, and just lets people shine in their way that God designed them. My question was, I love the pictures y'all post of the Special Needs Day. Is that called Buddy Day, I think?
No, it's Special Friends, and
Special Friends, that's it.
It's a service that we offer on the third Saturday of every month, and it's amazing. We have hundreds of special needs people that come in, and there's different things. You probably saw a post from one of the services, because there's always something special. There's always bingo where everyone wins, and so there's some lives that have been touched there. We have a team there, Gina Cannon and Jessica. There's some people that have just fallen in love with this ministry and have such a heart for it, and so that ministry just happens every third Saturday. People get here at 1 o'clock, set up tables and get things going. By 2 o'clock, we've got worship going, and you got the air guitars working in the front. I mean, these guys are amazing. So it's
so sweet.
It's an awesome ministry for sure.
And do you guys advertise like to different organizations, or is it mostly families in the church who have kids, or all?
No, it's people from all over. I mean, you don't know our area, but we're probably talking a 50-mile diameter around the church where they come in, and there's buses coming in, and just groups from different places, and it's an amazing ministry.
Cool. Yeah, it's beautiful. That's one of my favorites. It's close to my heart. So every time I see the picture, I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to come.
Yeah,
so, I love it.
One of the things, and this is really big from our pastors, is our mission is to connect people to their destiny, and so that's by connecting them to Christ, to the church, and to their call. So their call, I've realized through the years, it looks different for everybody, obviously. And that ministry started out of somebody's heart, that began just to love on people with special needs, and it evolved into what we now call Special Friends, and it's a service, and there's things happening all the time. We have, in this May, Dr. Joe and Pastor Chuck, you may be able to speak to this, but what happens is we talk about connecting to your call, and then we can get you to so far, right? And then, man, that ministry is going to keep going, whether it's the leaders of the church or not. And just a couple of examples, we had an awesome woman of God that just had a heart for juveniles coming out of the system. And she started going in and talking with them and ministering in the prison, actually. And before you know it, she's got a team of ladies, and they're starting to mentor these girls as they're coming out. And it evolved into a whole program, and it's a nonprofit now. And all we can do is sit back and go, hey, go here, because they're awesome, and they're members of the church. They're contributing members of the church, and they continue to pour into people out of the the heartfelt call or the ministry out of their heart. We have another one that that is just this year has exploded, and it's called Boys to Men of God. And the guy that, sorry, my plug, the guy Robert Hall, who started this ministry. As a child, he was beaten as a child. He was abused, and he's got some of the stories that he speaks are just incredible, and you can't believe that he is where he is today because of his upbringing. But he chose to make a difference instead of just slipping off into Never Never Land, you know. And so Robert, now I got to say, it's probably the largest outreach ministry that's happening. They meet every Friday. They've got nearly 100 kids every Friday. They do things on Thursdays. They help us with Adopt a Block because they show up and a ton of kids show up, you know, and it's a ministry to the fatherless. So there's Boys to Men of God and Daughters of the King, you know, and they're doing life and helping people in the church connect, to be mentors and to just love on these kids. So that has been one of the things as the outreach pastor that's like, wow, okay, I've got them, you know, they have started a small group, put it in the book online, and now this thing's blowing up. So I want to guide them and help them along the way as much as possible. And let God do the rest, you know. So have you guys run into, you know, that type of thing happening?
Dr. Joe, Pastor Joe, y'all can jump in if y'all have an answer. I can too, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
So it's as far as our ministries, or maybe it's a small group that starts out as an outreach small group, and for instance, this one with the Boys to Men of God, you know, they're fathers to the fatherless, you know, they're mentors for these kids that don't have fathers. So you basically take this small group, and the small group blows up because it is just God's all over it, and the people who are driving it just really have the heart and the passion for where it's going. This small group just recently turned into a nonprofit, you know. Wow. And I'm like, hey, go for it, man. You know, if there's people outside the church that are, you know, helping you along the way, and, you know, let's help drive and fan the flame is the way I've seen it. Now, we have had other things, and with other, you know, ministries that started, and it was like, well, what do I do with that? Because it got a little quirky. But, you know, have you ever run into this type of thing as far as someone just kind of getting out of the realm of what you can, you know, you're not going to be able to put the parameters around it and say, oh, this is church driven. No, this is driven by the heart of the leader that's going with it.
You know, it's interesting that you asked that question. We before I came to the Life Church, we were doing a lot of outreach in the city, and there were several people that when Pastor John kind of switched the focus as far as target we were serving, they got offended because it was kind of their ministry. And we ended up having to actually kind of shut everything down and regroup as a family, that we were here as a church, as a unit, as the body of Christ, not as separate units within underneath a title. And so we've been really intentional about, as we go out, that we go out with a heart of unity. And so since that time, we haven't run into that. We have people come. You know, people move into the church, and like your church is a large church, you have people come in all the time with great ideas, and they've been doing this in their church from before when they came here, and they want to kind of see if we're doing that now, or are we doing that. And so, like you, we've got people right now with a heart for prison ministry, and so we've got a couple of different connect groups that are doing prison ministry. It's not necessarily part of our outreach program, but it is something that we're doing as a church through our connect groups. And so I think if we can funnel people in that way, it's a healthy way to do that. And again, you are one of those very empowering leaders. You're all about supporting. I always think about Miles McPherson when I think about you in the style of leadership as far as outreach is concerned. So we're even learning how to do that well by watching you guys.
That's awesome. Pastor Chuck, did you have anything to add to that question?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just in direct response, Pastor Derek, I think I love the fact of somebody finding kind of their lane to serve in, and then it not just be something that they do, but it becomes really who they are. And so I agree with you, Dr. Joe. Like, our small groups have become that avenue for more opportunities to serve beyond just the bigger serve days, or when we call together the whole church together to serve. So I'm going to tell you what, I can't wait for that day to happen, because I think in terms of church life, we've seen great things happen, and we're just always believing for more, and that'll be added to the list of things asked for or imagined. And to now we know. So thanks, Derek, for sharing that. I think it's incredible stuff.
It's awesome.
That's cool. That's
Well,
cool. I love. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Derek.
No, I was just going to add that I've learned through, and it's almost been 8 years that I've been on staff, is that if we stick to our plan, the plan and the vision of our pastors, which is the most important thing, things are going to happen around us, and we can offer opportunities, we can put out what it is that that we see, but people are going to come in with the heart, and like Dr. Joe said, some people are going to come in with the wrong attitude and be like, hey, why don't you do this, and we just have to let that just skim right off of us and keep moving in a forward direction. Pastor Joe sent me, and I'll give you an example. Whenever I first got going, Pastor Joe and Lori asked me to go to the Dream Center in LA to spend a week with Matthew Barnett, and I was like, oh my God, like, this is going to be the greatest thing I've ever done. And it was an awesome trip. And I came back, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to have a Dream Center, we're going to be doing this, we're going to be, we're going to have a discipleship program, everything that they did, I was thinking, we're going to do it. But what I realized is that our area, our church, our ministry is called to this city and what's happening here. And so what's happened is we've evolved into what it is to meet the needs of our city and what it is that God's called us to do here. Right after that, I came back, and I mean, we were doing everything that we could, and I had probably a group of 40 people that would, if I'd sent a quick message, they'd show up wherever I told them, that I was going to be. And I woke up one morning, and it was early in the morning, and Pastor Joe had sent me this text, and it said, hey, Derek, I woke up with this thought. I want you to think culture, not activities, as you lead outreach. Culture affects everyone. It includes and bleeds through to all, while activities affect a small, tight group that does not always bleed through to the body. He said we need both, but cultures leading thousands and activities lead tens. So, in other words, Derek, slow down. Let's think about the big picture, And that was, I've hung on that text and built the whole outreach ministry around that one message from my lead pastor saying, hey, man, let's think about the culture. What kind of message are we sending out to our people? And so with that, it's really that culture that I believe is one of the most important things that we can either really mess up as an outreach pastor, or we can really help come beside and behind our pastors and say, man, this is what God's called us to do. And no matter what comes at me, or no matter what outside organization or person says, hey, you ought to be doing this, it is that vision and that culture that we're building because we were called to do it.
Wow, that's so cool to be invited to help build the culture, that the lead pastor would be like, hey, I need you to be a culture builder within the church, not just without. And just to have lead pastors who understand that, sometimes they don't, so it's a really big blessing that that's so close to their heart. one thing, I think you said this last year, Dr. Joe, but it kind of goes with what Derek's saying. It says it's not our job to do a bunch of outreach. It's our job and our role to bring health to the church. So as the leaders of outreach, like, yeah, we're supposed to create stuff and opportunities, and that's awesome. But really, at the end of the day, it's about empowering people and bringing health to the church, guarding the heart of what God has laid on our hearts as DNA. We're just supposed to launch people out there and make sure that the culture is healthy, because we're just facilitators. Like, yeah, we get to do it, but really we're facilitating. So, Dr. Joe, what about you guys? Like, y'all are, I love how we're kind of on different ends of the spectrum. So we've got Derek, who's the outreach pastor. We have Pastor Chuck, who's the lead pastor. And then we have you, who you're a Dream Center director. So staying connected to the heart of Life Church and Pastor John and Leslie, like, how does that work? Because you're running a big show that's all outreach on the show, but you're running a big deal that's separate but the same. How does that work? How do you build that culture and keep it intertwined with the church body and not let it be a separate thing?
I think that's probably the best question I've been asked in a long time. I think it is so important that it doesn't become a separate thing. We have a separate name, and we love the Dream Center, and of course Pastor Matthew, and we're part of the Dream Center network, and I don't know how many churches now, I think 50 or 60 churches that are a part of that Dream Center network now are 50 or 60 Dream Centers that are a part of that, and so we're grateful to be a part of that. But really, a Dream Center is nothing more than an outreach arm of the church. It is the church. It may be the arm that the community sees more often, but it's simply a reflection of what's already going on. Pastor John said something a few years ago that has stuck with me. He said, your light can only reach as far as it is bright at home. And so if your church is not healthy, if the environment is not healthy within the home, then you can't reach very far. And so it's so important that we are a part of the church, that it never gets out there and becomes its own thing. It is simply what happens within us that compels us. It is the Holy Spirit within us that compels us to go into our communities and just love people. And so I think that's a real critical part of what we do, is making sure that we never get outside and step outside the vision and the heartbeat of the Life Church, and that's our pastor's vision. And I think Pastor Derek said something earlier that about staying within that vision of his pastor and how critical that is. And so with Pastor Chuck, it's really important too, as he's that lead setter, he's that vision caster, and I love his vision, and again, I get to see a little bit of that pretty consistently, but I love to see him carry that heart. I had a chance to be up there for their men's conference or weekend retreat a couple of months ago, and just watching the way he leads and creates that vision and casts that vision consistently in front of his church. And part of your vision is touching people beyond the walls of the church, and that's really all we do in outreach, is we just touch people beyond the walls of the church, but it's simply an outflow of what we're receiving already as a part of that church.
I like that. So staying connected to the heart of that. So you personally have to stay connected to it and just be that cohesion. It's so cool. And just like back to Pastor Chuck, I love the culture of your church, and I love that you're so like, just, hey, we're still in the phase of we're trying new ideas and seeing what sticks. And just like Dr. Joe said, that you have such a love for people and such a big vision that you're casting, and I just, from what I can see, you're very personally connected to it, and for a lead pastor to have his hands in it is a very big blessing. Just even how you guys leave church on a Sunday, and I remember we walked down the road and had lunch together, y'all invited all these different people, and it was just like, we're just part of this community. We are in it. It's not this sign up on Saturday only. It's just, this is life. One of the things that's been inspiring me lately is, I know it's kind of old news, but the Love Does book by Bob Goff. It's like not this outreach resource that you would think, but you read it and it's like, it's not a strategy book. It's not a how-to book. It's a lifestyle book. And this dude, he just lives every day just to be with people. What's the next adventure? And that's when it comes to empowering people, it's like, yeah, I can give you ideas. I can give you how-tos all day long, and that's fun. But my goal, especially like this year personally, I want to discover how to live it in my own life, but how to help people see it beyond just a Saturday thing, just not just a red shirt thing, but just an everyday. So serve day every day. So you guys are welcome to jump into that, but I want to move to the actual serve day, talk about the event side of it. What, for y'all, like, what are you maybe planning to do for that day, but also why do you think that it's valuable for you to do, and how can it help carry momentum, not just for that one day, but throughout the year, to do something, if it's not on that day, if it's something like this? Like, what do you guys see value in that, and what is it? Y'all can just jump in. I won't call on anybody.
I'll jump in, just because I think we do see value in it, but we're also not creating something big and special. We're just expanding on what we do on a regular basis. And so we've just opened a wellness center at the Dream Center, and so that information has not disseminated into the community yet, and so this is going to provide for us an opportunity to do that. And so we do, like a lot of people do, a regular Saturday outreach, whether it's Adopt a Block or whatever. We call ours community care. And so we go into a neighborhood, and we just love on people right where they are every week. And so we're going to expand that. So we'll actually go in and just kind of make it a little bit of a bigger day. But the way we're going to draw the church in is we're going to provide the church members the opportunity to not only go where we always go, but into the neighborhoods around that area, just providing information about the Wellness Center. So again, you're drawing people back to what you're offering on a regular basis. And so it's just an expansion of what we're already doing. And it's one of the things that you guys have actually encouraged us to do. It's not, you don't necessarily, if you're already doing stuff, you don't necessarily have to create something big. Just expand maybe what you're doing. And so it gives us an opportunity to pull more of the church members in on a volunteer basis. And they get to, like Derek said before, the way for them to do what we're doing on a regular basis. Let God stir their heart. Maybe they'll be interested in doing that on a more regular basis.
Yep. That's kind of what we do here. Same thing, just maybe a little bit more expanded. We try to get everybody in and empower small groups, try something out, try a new idea, and go for it. So yeah, I love that it's like no pressure on you. Just do what you're doing and let it go how big it needs to go. What about you guys, Pastor Chuck and Derek? What do y'all got planned, cooking up?
Yeah, I would say in terms of Serve Day, I think we do, probably not to the scale that a lot of people do Serve Day, but just in terms of our church life and where we're at for summer in Chicago area. But I think for us, the win, not just what we do for the community, but the win is just to be involved with the church at large. So to know, again, that we're partnering with 230 churches on the same day, right. Thousands of people all over the nation. That is a massive win for us, and it brings credibility to everything that we do, for people to know that we're a part of something that's so much larger than ourselves. And that's really what we try to get the church to realize as part of our vision's bigger than us at all times. It's bigger than my wife and I. It's bigger than the first service. It's bigger than the second service. And one of those things is Galatians 5:13, which is really one of the kind of bedrock verses that we just brought for a foundation of building the church. And in the Message it says, it's obvious you've been set free, so use that freedom to serve others in love, not for personal gain. But then it says something so cool, because then it says, and when you do this, that's how true freedom grows. And so we just try to compel people that when we do this, it's really how we express the freedom we have in Christ, that we can serve, no strings attached, and we can serve all for love. So we just love being a part of something that's across the nation, around the world, and just one of many. And we always want to be, if we could just be a small part of something big, that brings glory to God, that's what we want to do.
Wow, that's so cool. It's such a humbling thing to look around. Like, I'm sitting here, I have to, like, update the map every day. I'm just like, God, this is crazy. They're everywhere. Like, you can just get in a car and you could drive across the country, fly across the world, and you'd see people doing beautiful things. Especially, like, in the world right now, there's so much junk going on. And just to be able to be like, wow, we're part of a movement of kindness. And like you said it wouldn't be maybe up to the scale of some of the other churches, but what I love is, like, it's not supposed to. There's no scale. It's simple. It's big. It's whatever God makes it. So big honor that you guys are being part of that. Okay, I don't want to take up too much more time. We're already hitting an hour, but Pastor Derek, real quick, what's Serve Day looking like for y'all, and how is it valuable in your eyes?
Sure, we're building up to it. We're super excited. We're going to go ahead and just blow up the 5 locations that we started Adopt-A-Block at this year, and those are going to be like a large water day for the kids and the youth to lead. And so that's kind of a focus that we're going to have for our Serve Day. On Friday, we're going to do we're going to call it, what do we call it? We call it the prep day, or the, hang on a second, I got it here. So we're going to call it the prep rally for the kids. And so the prep rally is going to be bringing the kids in and teaching them about outreach and what it looks like to serve other people. And we're going to run through some icebreaker games and some skits, and then how to just share the gospel simply. And so we'll have a couple leaders that are youth that are going to share a message at each one of those 5 locations, and the rest of the kids will be involved in the skits or in the icebreaker games, and we're just going to make it a lot of fun at those locations. At those locations, we'll also be meeting some specific needs that have been identified by the management of those properties, and so that's where our adults will come in, and then it'll be open to anyone that's going to be coming out, that we'll have things to do. We're going to push our special friends that day. We're just going to blow that one up and make sure that people know to go and serve. We've got a couple community partners through serving centers and a couple pregnancy resource centers that we're going to be doing cleanup at. And then we're asking our small groups to just, either plug into one or come up with something and go do it on your own, and let us know about it. And finally, one of the things that we thought about, and it's kind of coming together, is that we're going to do a movie night. So we're going to set up at large community centers and just pop up a screen and some speakers and dish out the popcorn and cold water, and just have a lot of fun with families and kids.
What movie?
I don't know yet. We're working on it.
Okay, I was like, I just don't know. I'm always looking for good options. So.
Yeah, so if you know of any great ones, let me know. But we just thought it'd be a good idea, so that a lot of these locations will be close to our Adopt-A-Blocks, and it'll be like, hey, why don't you come out tonight and sit with us and hang out? And, it'll be a great opportunity to invite them to church the next day.
That's smart. I know LA does something kind of like that for the kids, where they like decorate their own little drive-in car with cardboard. Yeah, I love that. We've talked about trying that out soon. Miss Kay, our Dream Center Kids director here, is like obsessed with it. So we were always talking about how can we make that happen. So I'll have to call you up, Derek, and see how that went and get some ideas. But okay, so one more question for you, the 3 of you guys. And before we close, I just want to see if it would be okay with you guys for maybe people who are new to Serve Day or even just outreach in general, if it'd be cool for them to pick your brain and just come to you, because this is all about the relational aspect, so we want to point people to people again. So my last question to y'all real quick, and if you want to at the end just share how people can get in touch with you, that would be awesome. My question is just if you could leave the people who are watching or who are going to watch this with one point, one sentence about just something you wish they would know in the world of serving, what would you leave them with? Dr. Joe, let's start with you. You're unmuted.
Sure. I would just say don't get distracted by the event. Just love the person God puts in front of you. Just take the time. Most people, the greatest gift we can offer them is time. So, and then I guess that would be me. So if you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me at drjoe, Dr. Joe, at memphisdreamcenter.com.
Fabulous. That's really great. Awesome. Okay, Pastor Chuck, your turn. What you got?
Yeah, I really wanted to go first so I could get that out of the way, but that's good, Dr. Joe. You know, one thing I would just say in terms of serving is that, you know, we really are. I think one of the things is you know, we've been called as leaders in our community. We've really been called to kind of reflect the love of Christ, to reflect the Spirit of Christ, and then become more like the person of Christ. And I think whenever we extend our hand out to somebody, that is the personified life of Christ is extending out. And so I would never, ever be ashamed for however great of scale or small of scale that it might be, to just extend your hand and to do what you can do in your community. And one thing I love about hearing all these ideas, which Dr. Joe, I've been around Memphis, I've seen everything, that a lot of the stuff you guys do, and always I hear the inside stories of it, and we take a lot of notes on that. And then Pastor Derek, I mean, what you guys are doing, I've taken some good notes today and some things that we want to, you know, just lend to in terms of that culture, building that culture that same way. But is that you take a good idea that works for somebody, and then you match it to your community, because it is going to make a difference for your community, and you know where you're at. And so I would just encourage you, extend your hand where you're at with what you know God's put on your heart to do in your community, and that will be a difference maker.
Great.
To reach me, you can catch me Chuck Colegrove. So Chuck, first name Chuck, easy to spell. Last name Colegrove at freechurch.co, or on any social media, Chuck Colegrove. So look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, Tori.
Thank you so much. That was deep, man. I put .com on my link. It's .co for anyone who's taking notes. .co. Okay. No, that was some good stuff too, Pastor Chuck. I just love y'all's hearts so much. Wow. I can't wait to watch this back. Okay, Pastor Derek, it's your turn. Close us out.
All right.
Words of wisdom. Ready for this one.
Here's what I would say is that, and what it's all shaken down to me is that serve opportunities, and anything that we do, we're creating opportunities to get into the life of people. And so as we do that, you know, we're going out and we're actually fulfilling the great commission of going out and making disciples. So as we go out and we build those relationships, whether it's a downtown friends or homeless outreach, or if it's at an adoptive block, or if it might just be at a picnic in one of your nicer neighborhoods, we are opening up the door to build a relationship and to get into the life of people. So the thing that we have to realize and remember is that not everybody is as passionate about reaching the world as we are, but God's called them to go out. And so it's the things that we do in preparation that are going to be opportunities that draw people to serve with us, and not make them feel obligated to do it. And I think over the years that has been one of the biggest things that I've learned, is that I don't have to stand on a stool in our connection center and be like, come on out and serve, you know. We want it to be that culture that through small groups, through Dream Team, that they're catching the vision of how we're serving people. And hey, it's more of a come go with me than, hey, you ought to go see the outreach pastor. I hear that they're serving. You know, it's more of getting your leaders on board, your staff on board, and moving together under that great vision that your pastors have received from God. So that's the words of wisdom that I would have.
I like it. Outreach is meant to be fun. It's a culture. It should be Wow, I want to be part of that. Like you said, just celebrating the stories and the wins is how people are like, oh gosh, I can't live without that. So, okay, Pastor Derek, how can people reach you? What's the best way?
You know, my last name is so long, so why don't you use serve at celebrationchurchtx.com. Serve at Celebration Church. Make sure you put the tx.com or you'll get that Florida church. That's the easiest way to reach me.
Perfect. Awesome.
And I would love, hey, Tori, by the way, that group that's put together, the Single Moms and Military Wives Oil Change, one of the things that we talked about at the end of this year is that, wow, we've got a lot of information to share, and I would love to make that available to anyone. So, yes, reach out to us at that serve email, and we'd be happy to call you and send over some information.
Wow, that's valuable. That's definitely something huge that can be very beneficial for people. And maybe we can get that up on the share site too at serveday16.com eventually. That would be really cool. So thank you guys so very much. If you are watching, we are going to have our next Serve Brew with Pastor Dino Rizzo and Pastor Matthew and Caroline Barnett. So that's going to be a big one. It's going to be fun. So be sure to tune in. That'll be July 11th at 3 p.m. Central. So thank you guys all so very much. It's been an honor, and we will see you soon. Bye.